One man is in jail following a joint investigation with the Barnstable and Yarmouth police departments. Plans are moving forward for renovations to the Osterville Bay School and Recreation area. And we'll tell you how your dog could be Barnstable's best dog. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, April 7th, 2015. I'm Sarah Lynn. Barnstable police seized 200 grams of cocaine, multiple handguns, and cash, among other things, during a recent raid. Police Chief Paul McDonald says Timothy Fletcher was arrested during the raid following a joint investigation with the Yarmouth Police Department.
We've arrested him several times before, and the fact that he's out on bail on a Superior Court charge right now for distribution of narcotics. This is an ongoing investigation that's been going on for approximately a month between the Barnstable Narcotics Unit and the Yarmouth Narcotics Unit. We knew Mr. Fletcher. He's been conducting his business between Hyannis and Yarmouth, and his method of operation is that he would change hotels and motels, 2 or 3 days, and move on to some other different place. So that way it make it more difficult for us to do a search warrant. They did obtain the information, and they did execute a search warrant last Thursday night. They waited for him outside. Upon his arrival, they immediately placed him under arrest. They brought him inside. And they got about 14 or 15 grams of crack cocaine, about $1,200 in cash. Also in the hotel room with him was a woman identified as Brooke Patel. During the course of that investigation, they developed information that he had a storage facility located at 500 Main Street, Hyannis. It was in the basement of the Fitness 500. During the day on Friday, they had him held without bail. They did execute a second search warrant down at the storage facility, and there they recovered almost 200 grams of pure cocaine, which was uncut. About $3,000 in cash, and 3 pistols were also recovered from the storage facility.
McDonald says Fletcher had 61 previous criminal charges and is now being held without bail. He could face other charges. A project to improve recreation fields and community building at the former Osterville Bay School is moving forward. Community Preservation Committee Chair Lindsay Council described the design process during last night's Recreation Commission meeting.
Concept design we were spending through the consultant just didn't really work, so we thought we'd embark on our own through the assistance of our GIS department to lay out some concepts that really move the principal puzzle pieces, as I call them, around so that we could make some decisions on what we really saw for a facility, and then we could move forward. So we embarked on our planning process, and we came up with a very simplified plan that we did. And basically what I had to do when I did this, I had to slide the field back considerably to get in the radius that we needed for a legitimate field. And we also combined the play area into one with the parking area nearby so that folks could park and watch their children. The other real need that folks really wanted was 2 tennis courts, but also a multi-purpose court for field hockey, basketball, those kinds of things, and generally keep that activity in one area. And then the other thing we looked at is the new rec center and how that would fit into the property, with perhaps a bandstand or a stage-type facility there to have perhaps concerts, but also be storage for the facility as well. So we kicked that idea around. And one of the issues that came up was there's a lot of real estate being consumed on this front parcel. That was one of the problems with keeping the rec proposal from our consultant. They had used up about a half an acre of real estate around that building that wasn't used for recreation. We also had problems with this would be the only play area for kids that weren't involved in ball games, for example. And we don't intend to put any fencing around the outfield, so we wanted to have as much area as possible. So for me, it was back to the drawing board. And we came up with this layout. And this basically keeps the softball field where it is. We've also decided to eliminate this parking. This parking wouldn't be as deep, perhaps more along the street, but put the courts out on the roadway here, using up the full area with some screening around it, combine the play area, and then put the rec center up in this corner. Taking advantage of the septic system for the site that's in this area, put a restroom stage building here, which would be centrally located, and then parking down here as well as parking on the street. If you look closely, this design we've looked at again would probably be more of a linear parking here, with this building perhaps moved down. So that's what we were really looking at. And it really moves the major puzzle pieces, the 4 major pieces, or 5, I really should say, with a bigger playing area. So you'd be able to get full-size games in this area. So that's where we are. And you know, at this point, we thought it was a good idea to bring you guys up to speed, get your input on some of this stuff, and see. Because as you may be aware, the school building is so decrepit, it's really not any portion of it can be salvageable. And the notion is to put a full-size rec facility here with a meeting room, a perhaps larger basketball court that would at least serve high school, be available also for volleyball, and serve as its own area. But the other thing that's really needed, and I think it's a good idea that came out of our meetings, was a restroom facility for Osterville that was separate, but accessible and easily locatable for people visiting the village, but that was central to all the facilities. So this is what we came up with, and we think it's a good start. And from here, once we build consensus throughout, we turn it back over to our designers for the individual components that would actually be needed.
And during the Recreation Commission meeting, there was some discussion about why the existing community center needed to be torn down.
They looked at several scenarios for both the buildings, retaining the rec building, for example, removing the school building, you know, and various iterations. If you were to retain both the buildings, it was in the neighborhood of $6 million to just refurbish it and get it prepared for a use without any interior facilities for rooms or any of that. Number was quite high. The problem with the rec building was its location was right in the outfield when it was built, so that always created a problem. Adults couldn't play softball there anymore. So the design of this facility reflects a full adult field, but it was really felt when looking at the needs of the rec building, poor design and the problems with that, and the cost of rehabbing that school building, the numbers didn't add up. You'd spend more fixing the buildings than you would on the entire field project. So that was the route we've taken. There still needs to be plenty of discussion on how the building's going to be removed, how that is going to proceed forward, CPC money, what share of that's going to be of the field project, and the rest of it. One thing I like about this design, where you keep the fields basically on the easterly side, is you can begin that part of the project earlier while you wait for building demolition and that kind of thing. So that's what this concept allows. And of course, we still have to go through the planning process, permitting process, all of that. But it was much simpler to move the chess pieces around on something like this as opposed to have designers going back and
John
forth.
Crow with the Osterville Village Association told the Recreation Commission that the group is 100% on board with the current plans.
And I do want to say about the building itself, a lot of us are very sentimental about that building. And the cost projections and the state it's in now with the black mold and everything else made it prohibitive and basically it's economically unfeasible. And it was a tough decision to vote to dispense with that building, but it was something that it was unanimous in our committee that it just wasn't feasible. And this would be the best way for us to get nice facilities. And we plan on being very careful as far as the design of the building to make it reminiscent of the old building in certain ways.
Residents can learn more about the project and voice their opinion at 2 future meetings. The first meeting will be held next Tuesday, April 14th at 7 p.m. at the Osterville Village Library. The second meeting will be held Tuesday, May 12th at 7 p.m., also at the Osterville Village Library. Both of those meetings, of course, are open to the public. Well, does your dog have what it takes to be Barnstable's best dog? Now is the time to send in a photo of your family dog in order to enter Barnstable's Best Dog Contest. The contest is a fun reminder that it's time to register your dogs. All you have to do is send in your dog's photo with your name and address on the back, along with a check for your license to enter. The contest ends on April 30th. Be sure to include a copy of your pet's current rabies certificate and self-addressed stamped envelope. And of course, don't forget to come in and vote. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we'll chat with Principal Planner Elizabeth Jenkins. We'll also talk with Finance Director Mark Milne. Plus, we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.